In 9 weeks, I helped Dr. Lonnie double her revenue and add $10,000 take home per month. And if you watch this video, you'll know the step-by-step conversion process we used to get more patients committed and excited to prepay. So I'm about to play a recording of a live training I did with a couple docs. One of them, Dr. Morgan, she actually opened her practice back in October, and she's already hit her second $10,000 month in February within 5 months of opening her practice. I'm just going to make things super simple. We first need to understand what somebody's problem is to do anything, right? Like the reason your business makes money is because you solve somebody's problem, and solving their problem is worth money to them, correct? Parts that we look at here is we clarify what their problem is. Super simple. Why are they even here? What is their problem? People won't know what the real problem is, as you guys probably know. People won't know. They're going to say like, oh, I don't know. I saw your post, or I saw this. They're like, hey, why are you in here? Oh, I just thought I would stop by. Have you guys ever had someone come in for a new patient? Like, why are you in here? It's like, oh, I was just looking for more information about how this works. Have you guys ever had somebody that comes in and like says that?
Yeah.
Or that walks into the practice? Maybe they don't schedule a new patient, but they walk into the practice like, oh, I'm just looking for more information. Or, they call in and they're like, I'm just looking for more information.
Yeah. Or they call or email or
Right.
totally.
It's like, that's not actually the thing. Like, you don't just go around calling random businesses just looking for information. Like, I'm not calling roofers when I don't own a home and I live in my apartment. Like, I'm not calling roofers just for information on what their pricing is because I'm interested, right? Like, that doesn't make sense. And so people like to dissociate and be like, oh yeah, like you put up these smoke screens so you don't have to deal with like the pressure being sold to. And so
totally,
even if they don't notice it, like that's all they're doing. And so it's like, okay, cool. Like that makes so much sense. Like, because we want to disagree with somebody. I'm a firm believer that you never disagree with someone. You don't have to agree with them, but you don't disagree because that's not getting you anywhere. It's like, oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, cool. Yeah, you don't really know why you're here, but like, what are you dealing with that kind of brought you in here? Like, why even look for a chiropractor? Why even look for this? What kind of pain are you having? Are you having pain? Is this something else? What caught your attention? What made you realize like, hey, this is worth getting more information about, right? And so that's what that conversation looks like. It's like we clarify why they're there, which includes the problem, the goal. I like to have like 3 parts to this. I think of the what, the how, and the why. Yeah. What does that mean? The what, how, why? Can you guys guess?
What happened? How did it happen? Why did it happen?
Close. No? Close. Not exactly.
Yeah.
Think of not what happened, but what is.
What's their main reason?
That's the what.
What's important to them?
So what's their main reason is the thing. Let's think of how. What would how be?
How did it happen that they started to feel like
it's a good question to ask, but that's not what I'm looking for. Why would asking how it happened matter? Let me ask that.
I guess it wouldn't really.
I think it helps as a practitioner, like figuring out like
avoid it again in the future, help them find out ways to not let that happen again.
Yeah. I think it just shows that you're listening.
Not what you're looking for though. Yeah.
No.
The how would it be like what they want fixed, how they want it fixed, and why they want it fixed? You're looking more like solution
You're getting closer.
oriented?
You're getting closer.
Is it how like the vehicle?
You just keep going. Let's go. You got so many ideas. I love it.
None of them are right. I don't know.
The how you guys are really close. The how's it impacting your life?
Okay.
How is it impacting your life? Right.
Oh,
so what is happening?
How is it? Okay, got it.
Yeah. What is it? What is happening? Right. I have migraines. Okay. Got it. You have migraines. And as Alex talks about, is like, he always brings up the example of cancer. It's like, cool, you have cancer, we can solve that. Right. But for this, it's like, put it in context, Chiro. Okay. You have migraines. You have sciatic pain. Got it. How's that impacting your life? Why is it, you know what I mean? Like, this is just like, cool. Like, what does it matter that you have migraines? How's that impacting you? Because that's the real part. Well, I have pain. 100%. I totally get that. I'm sorry that you have to deal with that. When do you notice that pain? Right? Because we're trying to get to like how it's impacting them, not just to them say, well, I have pain that I want to go away. That is amazing for us to know. But we kind of inferred that when they said they have migraines. But like the real question is, how is it impacting you? Like, when do you notice it? How does it impact you when you notice it? Are you able to do these things that you said you love? What kind of things do you enjoy doing? When does it stop you from doing things? Okay. When does it prevent you from enjoying the things that you like doing? Right. So it's like you can still do them maybe, but you feel it. When do you notice this the most? The reason we ask those questions, really, we're trying to figure out like, how is it impacting their life? Right. But there's a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
With the real purpose is like how. Okay. And it's like, cool. We have the how. They can't play soccer with their grandkids. Okay. What is the why? What is, like, they have migraines, or let's say they have sad pain. Let's stick with that. They can't play soccer with their grandkids is the how, right? And then let's think of the why. Where do we go from there? What do you guys think why means? This one's a little easier.
Like kind of like the reason it matters that they can't
Yeah.
do it. So it'd be
Yeah.
like, 'cause to them, being a good grandparent means that they can play with their kids, and
Yeah.
they feel like a bad
Yeah.
grandparent if they can't.
Have we talked
And
about
it's
this before?
I think a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Because I think we brought up the example. I think.
Like it's like, why
So-
does it matter to you to be a good grandma?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah. So a lot of times we assume these things. That's the hard thing. Like the hardest part is being intelligent and assuming, because we never want to assume. I know you guys are smart enough to guess pretty much what's going on, but that's not serving anybody, because all it does is show that you know people like them, but it's not letting them explain and us restating to them, right? That's how people feel understood. It's not having them come to the conclusions, because we may be putting words in their mouth. There's a chance you are wrong, as unlikely as that might be. But so the why is even important, right? Why is this important to you? And if I gave the example, okay, this grandparent can't play soccer with their grandkids, is that the how or the why?
How.
Exactly. It's how it's not letting me play with my grandkids. That has nothing to do with why that's important to them, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of grandparents that don't play soccer with their grandkids. Like, let's be super real. Why does playing soccer with your grandkids matter to you? Like, and that's a real conversation. Why soccer specifically? You know, maybe there's something deeper there. Maybe that's the memory that they have playing soccer with their grandparents, and that's why it means so much. Maybe it's just like playing a sport, and it just happens to be a sport your grandkids are into. And it's like, okay, why are playing sports like so important to you? Like, I guess, like, why is that specifically so important? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you're a better grandparent because of that? Like, we're trying to get them to tell us that. We don't want to ask them that.
Yeah.
Because that's a very pointed question. We want them to tell us, because if they tell us, then they actually feel that. They've internalized it.
Yeah.
But until they say it, they don't know, right? Like, they're not thinking, I feel like a terrible grandparent because I'm not able to play soccer.
Yeah.
They feel it. They feel the emotion, but they're not thinking that. And so what we're trying to do is to connect the emotion, the terrible emotion that they're feeling, to the logical step by step. Okay, it's because you feel like a bad grandparent. Okay. And that's because you're not able to play soccer. Okay. And that's because this pain. We can solve this pain, which means everything else goes away. But we have to line up the dominoes, right?
Yeah.
And the only way they get lined up is if they actually like state those things. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like getting.
So
Yeah, I feel like that was one thing, a big takeaway I've had from you and some of the videos you said, is like, it's a lot more powerful to have them say it
right.
and hear themselves say it than me saying it to them, you know, because it's like they come to the conclusion themselves. So yeah.
100%. Yeah. So that is like the clarify. Okay. And that might be like, dang, that's crazy. And it's like, that's the depth you want to go to. Like, that's what having a real conversation with somebody is like, right? We're identifying the problem. And like, the same is true. I've talked to friends, and it's not like I have something to sell them. Like, but I had a buddy, he's still one of my best friends, and a mentor, but he he was actually like, he's like, man, I just really want to lose weight. I was like, okay, cool. Like, there's a lot of things. Like, why don't we talk about it? Like, let's call. So I gave him a call,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah.
was like, okay, cool. Like, like, how much weight do you want to lose? Why do you want to lose this weight? Right. And I'm asking him, and that would be like, what is he experiencing? Right. So I'm like trying to find out, okay, you want to lose weight because you don't feel comfortable. Okay. How's that like, I guess, how's that affecting you? You want to, he was talking about it like future kids. He's like, I want to kind of be ready for future kids. And I never want to be like a parent or grandparent that can't do the things like, and so I was like, okay, yeah. Like, why is that? Like super. And I told him, I was like, this is super real conversation, but why is that? Like, I'm sure, there's a lot of people that don't do those things with their grandkids and kids. Like, why does that matter to you? Right. And then he talks about his dad and he's like, yeah, my dad wasn't, and so it's like, okay, I get that. So now I have this thing to pull on later. And so when I pitch him on like, cool, let's work out together. Let's focus on nutrition working out. Because that, to be honest, that conversation sucks because the hard part isn't getting the money. The hard part is them actually doing the stuff. So like, let's be super real.
Mm-hmm.
And so there has to be a lot of buy-in for that kind of stuff. Right. And so, with that, I was like, okay, cool. I totally get it. Now let's go to the next part. It was label. Okay. Label the problem. Right. Do you guys remember? How would you guys, what would the problem be here? What is the problem here? And this should be super simple.
Well, you were cutting
Don't
out a
overthink
little
it.
bit, but from what I heard, weight loss being
But not with
that.
weight loss. Sorry, with this example that we were going on with Cairo.
Oh, you're kind of cutting out a little bit.
Okay, no worries. What is the problem that we're going to label? We talk about this grandparent with playing soccer, sciatic pain. What do we say? How do we label that problem?
Oh, we don't label it as sciatica, right? It's like we label it as like they don't want to be a bad grandparent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good label. Sure. Like, okay, you've been dealing with the sciatic pain. I would connect them.
Okay.
You've been dealing with the sciatic pain, and that's kind of leading. Like, let me see if I like really understand where you're coming from. So you've been kind of dealing with the sciatic pain recently. It's been going on for the last 5 years or last year, right? Whatever it is, 5 months.
Yeah.
It's been 1 year. It's progressively got worse, and now it's not even letting you play soccer with your grandkids. At least for the last 3 months, it hasn't. Does that sound about right? And it sounds like the biggest thing though is that you feel like you're a bad grandparent because you're not able to do that. Because those are the memories you remember, like spending time with your grandparent, and you want your grandkids to have these memories. Does that sound about right? Is there anything I might be missing there? And it's like, no, there's nothing, or yes, like there's also this other thing. It's like, okay, cool. Let's dive into that. And then we dive into that rabbit hole.
I like the way that you worded that too. Like the way that you bring that up,
Yeah.
Because I've thought about that before, about how to like talk about that part of why it's important to them, but not have it be closed off. Like, oh, so you think you're a bad grandparent? Like the way that you worded it was really good.
Yeah.
It's like, so this is important to you because of this. Like,
yeah.
so it's more about like their character and like the good aspects of why they want it versus like like focusing on bad, like, oh, you can't do this right now because you're a bad grandma, so,
right.
Yeah, I like the way
I'm in no way. Yeah, I'm not labeling them with anything other than stating what they told me. I think is the important part. There's 3 things, and Alex talks about this too. There's 3 things that go on in any kind of sales conversation. Number 1, you have questions. Number 2, you have restatements, not statements, but restatements. And then number 3, you have stories.
Yeah.
If we're ever outside of that and we're not in our like 2 to 3 minute pitch, then we're doing something wrong, because we shouldn't be like educating and doing all that. Like, they don't care. They want to know that, like, hey, I'm dealing with this problem. You understand the problem I'm dealing with. You know all the qualifications I'm looking for in solving this problem, which a lot of them are going to be limiting beliefs. Like, let's just put it out there. I don't want to do this. I want to do that. It's like, okay, cool. Why is that? Let's dive deeper into the reason why you say you don't or do want these specifics. Okay, so does specific really matter? Or you just don't believe that this thing is going to work for you, right? So example, talk to a lot of chiropractors. A lot of them are like, no, paid ads don't work. Never want to do that. It's like, okay, cool. Like, or they'll start off, they won't say paid ads don't work. They're like, okay, yeah, I don't like advertising. I don't like advertising anything less than like $300 first visit. It's like, they're like, it only brings in quality, or they'll say that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like
300
why is that?
Dang,
right?
Yeah.
Like there's very numbers, but some people say like, hey, I have a $300 first visit. Don't want to do anything less. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, why is that? It's like, oh, then there's just unqualified people come in. I'm like, okay, what's unqualified to you look like? Like, just to be specific, like, does that mean like, cool, they come in and they just drop $3,000 without even talking to you? Like they pay online and before they come in, they pay for their care plan. Does it look like they show up? Because there's a big difference. Like they show up to a first visit is very different from spending $3,000 before they meet you, right?
Yeah.
Like what is qualified? Oh, they just show up and do this. Like, okay, cool. And you said that paid ads didn't work. So are you saying like they just weren't showing up? It's like, okay, yeah, they weren't showing up. Okay, there's things we can do to get them to show up without charging $300 up front, right? Like there's things we can do. Cool, let's add a deposit in there. Or cool, let's have you call them and confirm that they're actually going to show. And so like there's a ton of things you can throw in there, but you have to get to the real problem. What's the real problem? And it very, very rarely is what people say, because if it was what they said, then like, if it was what they said a lot of the times, then your solution wouldn't work, right? If it's something that goes against your solution. So that's not the truth of it. It's just they've experienced things and they've come to those conclusions. And so it's our job to break those as we find them, right? So anyhow, that's how you would ask questions to break a belief. Yeah, you're all good.
Okay.
Next one, overview. What's the purpose of that? You guys remember?
To get them to admit that everything they've done has not gotten them to the space that has brought them to the level they want. So they're missing the key.
Golden. Yeah. It's like, why haven't we found a solution? Or it's really like, what have you tried so far? How did that go? You know it went terribly, right? You have your 4 questions you can circle back on. But it's like, cool. What have you tried? Okay, that didn't work. Why do you feel like that didn't work for you? I like putting the ownership on them. Why do you feel like it didn't work? Oh, well, this, and this. Because we find out a lot of limiting beliefs when we ask them, like, why do you feel like it didn't work? And they're like, oh, paid ads don't work. That's why this company didn't work. It's like, okay, what do you mean by that? Oh, gotcha. So when you say paid ads didn't work, you mean like it didn't work for you. Okay, that makes sense. Like, I get that. Why do you think it didn't work for you? Right? And it's like just understanding, oh, this company did this. Like, okay, cool. The company did this, and this. It's like, okay. And I'll look at, okay, what was the process like? Okay, the company made you do the calls. It's like, did you sign? Like, people just don't take ownership. A lot of times they'll be like, oh, the company did this. Or if they're like, oh, the company did their best. They did this, and this, but we just weren't able to find something to make it work. It's like, okay, what do you think the problem was there? And I'm trying to find the reason, like, why was this not successful? Because in order for me to get them to try something they've tried before, that's harder. It's harder to do that. And so different is better than better. Saying like, oh, we're just better at chiropractic than this other person, that's not going to ensure a lot of confidence if they tried chiro for 3 months and it didn't work, right? That's not going to give someone confidence it's going to work. It's like, okay, so you know how you said that they were doing, you can throw whatever. You know, they said that they were just cracking your back and doing a 2-minute adjustment. So what I'm seeing actually is that there's something to do with your soft tissue. It's not actually going to be one of the adjustments they were doing. We'll do those in combo because they were on the right track. Like the things you said, I know you loved them. Like the things they were doing were on the right track. But something I see very common in a lot of patients that come in with this issue, and then we talk about it. Like they come with this issue, they've tried chiropractic is the soft tissue work, or you pitch them on whatever it is, right? But yeah, we want to find out, what have they tried? Okay, cool. You tried PT, you've tried massage. Why do you feel like these haven't worked? Okay. And some people, as crazy as it sounds, are going to be like, oh, you know what? Like I'm doing this right now. I'm doing massage right now. It's like, oh, we lost her. They'll be like, okay, cool. Like I'm doing massage right now. Right. Or I'm doing acupuncture right now and it works. Like, okay, like it works. Got it. And obviously it's not working to the effect that they want it to. They'll be like, oh, I already see a chiropractor. It's like, okay, like how long you been seeing them? Been seeing it for 3 years. Okay. How long is this pain? This pain's been going on for 3 years. Okay. Is there a reason that it's not like fully gone then? Like, just so I can better understand, like, what's the thought process there?
Yep.
Right. Or they'll be like, I see a massage therapist and it's working. The thing is, we want to address this on like, why are we looking? Why, like, is this actually working if you're still in here with the same problem that you've been dealing with and they've been working on that for you? That might, and then maybe they play a valid piece of the puzzle, but they're missing something, right? And so it's important for us to find out what that thing is so that when we do pitch them, we know what piece, and we want them to tell us what that piece is too. Remember, we're asking questions. We're not telling them right here. We're just asking questions to understand, right? Next portion. So now it's like, cool. We understand what they've tried. They've tried acupuncture, massage. It's like, awesome. We kind of got that. And the reason it hasn't worked is because insert whatever. It depends on, for sciatic pain. Like you could insert whatever. They've tried massage. I don't know. It works for pain relief, but the things keep coming back. It's like, okay, got it. Then here's where we sell the vacation. What I like asking before we really sell the vacation, let's do this. I'm going to give you guys some secrets here. But no, they're really good. They're really good. If we do a day 1, day 2, this portion, this right here, step number 4 would actually be our exam. So you would have all this in the consult, and far too many people that I see are like, I don't want to spend this much time talking. It's like time talking might be the difference between you making a sale for someone coming in and paying per visit. And then someone, those 15 minutes might be the difference between that and someone dropping $2,000 up front. And so it makes sense to actually dive in to what they're dealing with, what their real problem is, what they've tried so far. Because how the heck are you going to pitch someone that you don't know? You don't know if you can pitch them. Like, yeah, you might know you can solve their problem, but you don't know all the baggage they have. You don't know what words to avoid. You don't know what things they tried and haven't worked. And so if you talk about those things being the key there, and you might do it in a different way, but if you talk about those things being the key, you might be like, oh no, I tried that. It didn't work. I don't really believe this is going to work for me. In which case you've lost the sale, right? So with all that said,
so are you saying that this, after overview, you're saying exam is the next logical step? Like you would do exam, all the findings, so then you could follow up with, based on what you told me, does this sound correct? This is where you're trying to get. Does that sound correct? This is what I'm seeing, and this is where we're going to go. Like, as in that would be like the day 2 conversation following with like, sell them the trip.
So I'm a little confused. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
You went over the clarify the label, the overview, and then you're saying exam, as in you would do the exam, and you said, now that I've got all this information, I'm going to take a moment to really think through what needs to be done. I'm going to have you come back on another point. We're going to schedule.
If you do a day 1, day 2,
you
can do a straight day 1.
Yep.
I like doing day 1, day 2 personally. I think that there's multiple reasons, but I think that especially if you're new at sales, it gives you time to be like, okay, cool. Firstly, I can just focus on my day 1 and just patient care on day 1. It makes it simpler. You don't have to, you just focus on being present and knowing them. You don't have to worry about, dang, what am I going to pitch them on? How am I going to, no, you just get to focus on that. Number 2, there's more rapport built up if you meet over multiple days. So if you spend 30 minutes with someone on one day and 30 minutes another day, 30 minutes on the 3rd and 4th and 5th day, 3 days, 5 days, 30 minutes mean more than 1 day, 2.5 hours. And so that also helps you build more rapport. Next is you now have an opportunity where you can actually think about what is the what, how, why? How do I pitch that to them now? How do I write this up? And I'm like, cool, literally write it up. Because if there's anything that's worth the 10 minutes of prep, it's the new patient, because that's going to be that's going to determine whether you ever get to work on them again. And so it's like, awesome, write up the what, how, why. What was their what? What was their how? What was their why? How are we going to include that in the pitch? How are we going to tie that all in? So I'll literally write that up. And the thing is, if you didn't get the why, because we're closed off, or they were, and we don't want to force that. Like, we can't force them to be like, oh no, tell me. And it's like, some people just be like that. Then when we come back on the day 2, it's like, hey, like, here's the recap. Here's what I remember. This is what you're dealing with. This is how it's affecting you. I couldn't stop thinking about this over the past couple of days. So like, why was this so important to you? Right? It gives us another opportunity to circle back around and like better understand their situation. And then we can get the why for our pitch. And so, it lets us be more prepped and keeps that's why I like a day 1, day 2. Anyhow, yes, exam. Then you'd be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. Dr. Morgan, you want to drop what we talked about before? What does your exit to day 2 look like?
Like when I start day 2 or like the end of it?
End of day 1.
Oh, end of day 1. End of day 1, I'll get them on the books for the next visit. So I kind of just use like assumptive mode. Like I don't say like, oh, do you want to schedule your next one? I'm like, okay, let's get you in for your next one. We're gonna look up your proctor scan. That visit will be about 30 minutes. When works for you. And I usually will just give them 2 times. I'll be like, I'm here Monday, Wednesday, this time, Tuesday, Thursday. And I'm like, does morning or afternoon work better? And I just give them like 2 available times because I think giving them less decisions is actually helpful.
Yes.
And then, I just get them booked
Soonest
from there.
available.
And sometimes people will ask me like, they're like, oh, well, how much is it going to cost going forward? And I'm like, well, I want to take some time and look at what we talked about today and figure out a plan that's going to be really individual to you and what you need. And I have different options going forward from there, and we'll find a way forward together that's gonna, work for you. And I try to just kind of skirt around the how much it's gonna cost thing until next time, because I don't want to tell them something before I have a chance to talk about their why and their how I'm gonna help them first before doing that.
I think price is what people think about, but that doesn't matter at all if it's not the right solution for them. And so if you set the super clear expectations for like, hey, we're actually going to be going through that on the next visit, and here's why. Like, it's actually so that I can create this custom thing and I'm not just making it up on the spot. I'd rather spend some time, create it, make sure this is the absolute best plan for you and your health, based on everything we went through today. And then it's like, is there good, then we circle back to our question. What's a good time to get you scheduled? Right. And then we, one thing, Alex,
I'm sorry.
Go for it.
No, I was just going to say, like, one thing I felt like I learned from my associateship in Seattle was like the assumptive mode of not being
assume
like,
the close.
You want to come in again? Like, I just am like, when can you come back for your next one? I'm never even with an ROF, I'm like, okay, let's get you scheduled for 4 visits. I'm not like, do you want to schedule out? Or like, I'm always just like, all right, so like, let's do these many weeks in advance. When do you want to come? Then they can still say no, obviously, if they want to, but I'm not like, I'm not like, oh, do you want to come back? Like, because I have a lot of conviction of like, I know I can help you. So when are we doing it? Not are we doing it? Kind of thing. Yeah.
Pro tip for you, Dr. Morgan. I don't know if we've talked about this. Whenever you sign someone for a treatment plan at the end of day 2, here's what I want us to implement. And this is going to save you time too. It's going to be amazing. Just say, okay, start of the next visit. What are typically the best times and days for you? Okay, cool. Mornings on this day, like 2 times a week. What are typically, do you prefer mornings or afternoons? Okay, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursday, pick 2. Okay, cool. Got it. You go back, you write up a mock schedule for all their visits of their entire treatment plan. And then you bring it to them on your next day and be like, hey, here's the times I'll work on, we can get these booked out. Do any of these times, do you have a problem with any of these times that we need to shift? Right.
Perfect.
Then it's like, cool. You put it in the calendar and you never have to think about it again.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the benefit. So you just put like a soft block in your calendar as you're like charting out someone's schedule, right?
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Okay. So next step, we had the exam. I'm going to speed through this, but this is actually like super, super important. But we have a recap. Okay. I'm sorry. We have a report. By the way, the report of findings is actually the cell vacation. The whole idea behind a report of findings is just to sell somebody on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're thinking about the money or not, like it's to sell the fact that they have this recommendation. This is why it's important that they do this recommendation specifically, right? We're selling them on the idea of doing this specific care that we put together. And so there's 3 parts in ROF. I'm just gonna label it very simply. We have our recap. We have our recommendation. And then can you guess the third part?
Payment options.
Yeah, finances. That's how I would say it. But yeah, payment, right? Recap, recommendation, finances. Do not bring up finances before we're at the finances section. Meaning, there's specific questions I like asking. With the recap, it's like, cool, here's a what, how, why. You told me that you were last time. This is what I remembered. Let me know if there's anything I'm missing. As you thought about, I remember X, Y, and Z, right? We, bring up the what. You're really dealing with this sciatic pain. It's been affecting you, not being able to play with your grandkids, and you've been feeling X, Y, Z. And but the biggest thing that we're dealing with is like, we need to get you back to this so you can spend the time with your kids, because recently you felt like you're not as good of a grandparent as you have been. That's the most important thing to you. Does that sound about right? Okay. And I remember you also saying like you remember these memories of your grandparent, which is why it's so important. And so I really appreciate you sharing all that. But is there anything I might be missing there?
Just a moment, I'll be right there.
Right. And so we bring that up. Cool. Recap. Done. And I'm actually, man, how much do I want to show y'all right now? I'm like, there's just a lot of information, so I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but this is really good stuff. The recommendation. And once we get to the bottom of the recap, I'm going to go through, I'm just going to speed run, and I can't share this doc right now, but I'm going to speed run a couple things. Silification, recap is like, cool. Just want to recap, we're on the same page. Recap the what, how, why. Okay. This is your goal. Your goal is to get to here. This is what's stopping you from getting to that goal. This is how long you've been dealing with this problem. You've tried this, and this. So we're recapping the whole day 1 in like 5 minutes. You tried this, and this. And the important thing is we want to get back to, the things that, what do you call it? We want to get back to the motion that they experienced on their day 1, right? Because that's the important part here. And so, I say you've tried this solution that hasn't worked because of this. And I'm like, why? This is so important for the recap. Why do you even feel like it might even be worth looking for outside help or looking for help fixing this outside of what you're currently doing? Just so I can better understand. Why is it important for us to do something different? We don't want to tell them why it's important. We don't need to tell them like, hey, you're smart, figure it out. Like it's, like we're not trying to be like, hey, yeah, you're smart. You're dealing with all these things. You tried all these things. None of them worked. Of course it's important, right? Only someone that's dumb wouldn't realize it's important, right? We're not saying that. But we are saying, why do you actually feel like this might, and it might seem very dumb, but it's like, if you actually look at the way we act in our things, we probably do the same exact stuff. And so it's just, I haven't thought about this as much as you have talked to patients, right? Recommendation. Mind if I present the optimal recommendation? Really good transition. We tie that recommendation back into the what, how, why. Ask them, does that make sense? And then I like a 3-pillar pitch. So we say pillar number 1 does this so that you can get back to this so that this happens. Pillar number 2, we do this so that we can get back here so you can get back to playing with your grandkids so that you can feel better. Pillar number 3 is we work together to keep you doing this so that you never have this issue come up again, or whatever it might be. And that might look like pillar number 3 is maintenance, or pillar number 3 I like best pillar, support and accountability and support. It's like, cool. You say you try all these things, none of them were customized. Yeah, that's what we're going to solve for, because it seems like the things that didn't work because you didn't have that custom application. You say you didn't even stick to it. You didn't have the accountability, right? And so if you had the accountability, do you think it would have worked? Yes. Okay, cool. So that's what we're going to provide you, is we're going to make sure the solution actually works because you're going to stick to it. Right. And so anyhow, there's so much more detail we can go into there, but biggest thing here, I'm trying to go fast. You can head out, Dr. Edmond. I always ask, which of those 2 things do you think are going to be most impactful for you? What about the results do you think will make the biggest impact on your life, and why? And then, do you agree that doing this plan to accomplish this, and this, get back to your what, how, why, is the best course of action? why would we ever talk about money if they don't think it's going to work, right? If they don't think it's the best decision, why would the finances don't matter? It doesn't matter if it's $10 or, like it do something different. And so we want to address any hesitations there. The other thing is once you present price, you now become a salesperson in their eyes. And so it's way harder to overcome limiting beliefs. So we want to make sure we overcome as many as we possibly can before that. We're just trying to make our lives a little easier and their lives a little easier because we're being honest through the entire sale. So we're trying to keep trusting us as we approach those beliefs, right? And then lastly, finances. Hey, here's how much it costs. We have option A, which is monthly. This is what that looks like. This amount per month, $200 a month for 6 months, $1,200. Or we have option B. Option B, you're actually going to get a 20% discount. If you want to do that, you get a prepaid discount, and that's going to be, $997 upfront today. Which of those two options do you feel like is going to be a better fit for you and where you're currently at? And then we just wait. We let them tell us. And we sit there for 5 minutes. Little trick here, if you ask them about their calendar, like if you ask them like, hey, what times and days are best for you, you can just start drawing up the times and days that work for your calendar. So you're doing something in the meantime, so you don't feel as uncomfortable. You just have your calendar in front of you and you just start doing that. Cool. Oh, I have this issue. Okay, cool. Like, let's talk about it. You have this issue. It's too expensive. Okay, yeah. Can you share a little bit more on what you mean by that? Okay, cool. Because too expensive, it's such a broad statement. The monthly payment's too expensive. Is it just the pay in full is too expensive? Is it something different? Like it's too expensive for this week. It's too expensive for this month. Like, okay, what do you mean by that? Oh, I just can't because I have this issue. Oh, okay, got it. Like finances aside, this is objection handling, right? This is moving on to the next step after celebration. Handle any objections. Finances aside, do you feel like this would make sense for you? Like, do you feel like this is the best course? Because now the price spin, their answers can change. And so it's like, yes, I do. Okay, what other hesitations do we have outside of finances? There's going to be some other hesitation. If you hear it, you're like, okay, you don't sound 100% confident. What we'd be thinking, right? We dive in there. Once we've isolated, okay, everything else we've handled, now it's just finance. It's like, okay, cool. Can we move forward now that we've handled all these objections? Because odds are we've handled the real objection behind the finances, right? And if they're like, no, I still can't do this because I'm not able to. Okay, no worries. What if we did this and we present the second option? But by that point, we've addressed all the concerns or all of them that we've gotten so far. And then we move on to our downsell, right?